Yeah, I've created a diagnostic that I've put on my website, which is douglasandassociates.com. Douglas with 2 S's. And so anybody can go to my website and take the diagnostic. Now, of course, I have the diagnostic as well in the book, in the appendix. So the first 4 chapters of the book, which is entitled, What is Your Church's Personality? Discerning and Developing the Ministry Style of Your Church. Explains the rationale, the issues connected to my process. But the appendix at the very end provides that diagnostic that the pastor can take who is looking for a new ministry opportunity, or our graduate takes, and then also the church takes. And then you can see immediately what kind of a matchup there is between the two. Now, I make it clear in the book that ministry style matchup is not the only factor. As I often say, character, godliness of character, trumps everything that I'm talking about in terms of ministry style. I think this approach that I'm following here it helps people to recognize where they're going to function the best, where they're going to receive the greatest affirmation for their particular gifts and talents and ministry style. Now, I have a chapter for each of the 8 dominant ministry styles of the churches that I've studied over the last several years. And each chapter is about 20-25 pages, where I go into descriptors that talk about how that style of church does ministry in a unique way. So the idea is to do the diagnostic, figure out what your personal ministry style is, or your church's ministry style, and focus on that chapter. So I'm hopeful that this is going to lower the level of conflict that we find in churches. One of the other things that prompted me in writing the book is exactly that. The high level of conflict that is present in churches across the theological spectrum in our country and world. And a fellow named John LaRue, who works for Christianity Today, does a lot of surveys for them, has surveyed readers of Christianity Today. And his statistics from the survey indicate that the first 4 out of 5 reasons that there's conflict in the church is because of difference of style of ministry. Now, it's stated in various ways: difference in philosophy, difference in view of leadership style. So it's expressed in different ways, but they're all, first 4 have to do with difference in ministry style. And the 5th is difference in theology. Now, I think we assume that difference in theology is the primary reason, but it's really not. Now, a lot of times when there's conflict in the church between different ministry styles, it'll be couched and presented in terms of theological issues. But in fact, as I often put it, that's not the roots of the matter. That's what the weed looks like above the ground. And so that's what we tend to deal with. But the roots of the matter are almost usually, I'm going to say 80% of the time, not theological. but rather ministry style differences that people get very upset with one another over. So my theological foundation for this, of course, is the body of Christ. We have different members of the body of Christ, and that we have to appreciate different ministry styles within a church, but also within a presbytery, or within a town, or a city. Now, obviously, there are lines over which we cross that, again, become theological and very significant theology that's not biblical. But that's not usually the primary case in the PCA or in our Reformed or conservative evangelical circles. It's just a different way of doing ministry. Some of the distinctives, for instance, would be, is this a church that does things by procedure, step by step, pretty much following the rule book, going by the book of church order, Robert's Rules of Order, doing things in a progression, step by step? Or is this a church ministry style that is more global and a big picture, and basically develops the goal and then establishes the steps you're going to follow based on what that goal is? Well, those are just two different approaches to ministry. Another is going to be, is this a church that is going to be more rational, logical, analytical in its approach, especially in its teaching and preaching ministry? Or is it going to be making its decisions based on what's best, in their view, for individual people in the church? Especially the people that have been faithfully serving in the church for decades. And so decisions are going to be made regarding, well, how is this going to impact Mrs. Jones, who's been with us for 80 years, versus what is analytically, rationally the best. So a lot of times decisions are made in terms of how it's going to affect the church as a whole, or how is it going to affect key individuals within the church. Well, those are two different ministry styles. Now again, one's not right and the other wrong. One's not good, the other evil. They're simply different. And another is time issues. And how rapid a pace does the church expect for its programs to move forward? Is it happy if a program develops over 2 or 3 years, or does it want that program developed within half a year? Well, again, one's not right and the other wrong. Another is, how task-oriented is the church versus relationship? Is getting the task accomplished in a high level of excellence, the priority, or is it taking care of people first, whether the task gets done or not? So those are just a few of the distinctives among the 8 different ministry styles.